Headed down to Canyon City with my boys to see if we could get this truck started. Checking out the ignition system, trying to figure out if it was 6 volt or 12 volt. Was under the impression the 56 6-cylinder had a 6 volt system with a positive ground. Here we're trying to find a good place to grab onto the crank to see if it'll even spin. Not an easy task because there was no crank bolt. This is me laying on the floor trying to figure out the ignition switch wiring. Almost fell asleep laying there looking up at the leaves. After laying there for a while, figured out the wiring for the ignition switch and then headed down to the auto parts store. After getting everything we needed from the auto parts store, we went to dinner downtown and then took a Halloween tour of Canyon City. This was a display at one of the neighbors' houses, which I thought was pretty cool, so figured I'd share it with you guys. A pretty successful first day down there. It was time to hit the hay. Next morning, got started on trying to get the ignition working. Christian spent a significant amount of time making sure the ignition switch was wired up properly. And Cameron climbed underneath to clean up all the wiring to the starter solenoid. So there's our new ignition switch and key until I can get the original one fixed. Leaking gas from the gas can and from the carburetor. This was not looking good. So she did turn over and we were very excited. So now we needed to pull the carburetor off and try to figure out why it was leaking so bad. Molly came out to check on our progress, and Christian worked on getting the throttle linkage off of the carburetor. Good job, buddy. So that was it for this trip. Had to do a little troubleshooting on engine displacement and firing order, but other than that, we headed home and I started looking for gaskets and a rebuild kit for the carburetor. I only ended up getting new gaskets. This was a Carter Ball B&B carburetor, single barrel, manufactured for Chrysler, so obviously not the correct carburetor for this truck. It was hard to believe I could actually find gaskets for this thing, but was able to find some, tore it apart, and replaced all the gaskets. The coffee table in the family room made the perfect workbench. As you can see, we jumped from Halloween to Christmas, so time was flying by. I really enjoyed tearing this thing apart and putting it all back together, trying to figure out how it all worked. Was truly anticipating getting it back together and having it be functional, thinking I'd go back down and bolt it back on and that truck was just going to start right up. Unfortunately, it did not really help the fact that gas was just pouring out of the bottom of this thing, so I ended up ordering a new carburetor on Amazon, and that's what we ended up putting on it after putting this one back on and having it still leak profusely. Put the Amazon carburetor for a Willys on there, and it gave us hope that it would at least start up and idle. I'd like to get a Zenith carburetor someday to put back on there, which is supposedly the original one. Although for now I think I'm going to try to rebuild this carburetor and get it working, so in videos to come. So Mike's Carburetor Parts was where I got these gaskets, and like I said, I was super impressed that they were available. So cool. I was super excited to get back down there and put the carburetor back on with the new gaskets. After getting the carburetor on and getting a good night's sleep, it was time to try it out. I spent the majority of my day online trying to figure out what the problem was and why it was backfiring through the carburetor. I did know, it turned out, but wouldn't realize it until later that night. So yeah, I spent the day online trying to verify my firing order, displacement, all that kind of stuff. I did find out a lot of stuff. One was a little bit of a bummer, but the engine in the truck was not the original engine. It's a 248 from a 55 GMC. 56 should have had a 270 cubic inch engine. Tried looking up the VIN number, which it didn't have. It just has this Colorado ID number. Ended up finding a stamp on the engine block saying 248, which indeed it's a 248. The guy I bought it from told me, don't let anybody tell you it's a 1 ton, it's a 1.5 ton. So a guy on the forum said, send me a photo of the rear wheel, and from that he said it's a 1 ton. So I don't know what I have, but see, right there is the stamp 248, so that's the displacement of the engine. I'm still excited this thing's running and not needing to put the V6 off the flatbed in there. Will I get the original 270 in there someday with a Zenith carburetor? Maybe. Will I put a small block Chevy in there someday? Maybe. I don't know. I'm liking the 248 for now. So I've been through this at least twice before, and after fighting it all day long and trying everything except the right thing, which is typically my MO, was calling it a night and pretty discouraged, and walking into the house after dark, and I felt this pull from my truck, like, dude, get back here, flip the distributor 180 degrees and I will start for you. So went back and loosened the bolts just enough on the hold down clamp on the distributor to pull it out a little bit to where you could feel that notch, and dropped it back in. And would you believe, after how many years? Ready?
Yeah. Wow.
She's alive.
Old Yeller. Stinky baby.
Try it?
Yeah. Whoa, that was good.
So that last video was just the truck was just idling super high. I need to do something about the carburetor, which I did. I ended up getting a Amazon carburetor or a carburetor off Amazon that was for a Willys. It's a little bit too small for this, but we're gonna give it a try. Hard to describe how excited I was that this thing was running or why that would excite me, but boy, I was excited and walked away from this with a huge smile. Was really looking forward to getting back down and getting it dialed in a little bit. Unfortunately, found out the water pump is leaking really bad, so that was going to become the next challenge. So come back and watch some of that if you want, and eventually we'll hopefully get this thing running, and then we can see if it drives and then if it stops, and you know all the rest of that. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later. Oh, and the bonus, not quite as exciting as the engine, but still extremely exciting. I found a new latch and key for the glove box. Got that shut, and that was amazing too. So again, thanks a lot. See you later.